Hello, welcome. So this is a Cityside collection of videos where I'm having conversations with various reverends from around Cityside. In this particular video, I got to sit down and have a talk with Reverend Darrell. Reverend Darrell Jones is much beloved by this community and always brings such great wisdom and thoughtfulness to everything that he does. And he was just really sharing from his heart, just this open channel of wisdom. And I'm so excited to just share this with you. So please sit back and enjoy the amazing Reverend Darrell Jones. So I'm so glad to be here with you, Darrell. I'm so glad that you said yes to this. So as you know, Vision for America, Cityside is really focused on going deep during this election period and during all the issues and questions that seem to come up. There's questions around how power is being used or misused. There's fear around healthcare and health and all kinds of things. And so really just today we wanted to touch base with you about like what can we know? What would you throw out as our spiritual knowing, as our spiritual truth as we go through both the choices that we have to make as we vote and also, just the consciousness that we should be holding right now.
Mm. Sure. Well, thanks, first of all, John, for hosting these and organizing them and putting them together. It's always a pleasure to be connected and be a part of the Cityside community. And I really think it's important what's happening right here and right now on these calls, on this Zoom session. There is such a rapid and high rate of information that is being thrown at us on some level.
Yeah.
That and it's not about the information itself, I think, always, whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, accurate or inaccurate, because there's always going to be opinions of what that is. I think it is the container in which that information is held on two levels. The first level is what is the container that it is being presented to us in or from. So whether it's a news network, whether it's a newspaper, whether it's someone posting something on their social media, whether it's having a conversation with someone one-on-one or in a group, how is it being offered? And then there's the receiver. So that's where we are in terms of our individual consciousness and our individual practice. How are we receiving that information, regardless of the way that it is being offered and presented?
Yeah.
So consciousness, is always at the center of the spiritual conversations that we have in religious science and science of mind and the New Thought movement. And there's so many different ways to think about what consciousness is and where does it reside or where does it live. But the bottom line in relationship to the election, one of the things that I don't usually caution people about things very often, but it's not a caution out of a space that something is wrong or someone is bad. It's just the invitation is to pause and to maybe just think about what is the consciousness, what is the container of information that is being offered to me, right? Because there's a lot of fear that is being activated right now. And fear is not bad or good. And to move from fear, to embrace a consciousness of fear, it is a filter of our experience. And it does something, I believe, to block, to hinder, to stifle our connection to spiritual truth, which is transcendent, which is permanent, which is ever true, everlasting, evergreen. It is not contingent upon the conditions of our life, like our relationships or an election. And the spin and the hype is all about the condition, and it's all about right now, And so there is an immediacy, but the where I've been sitting in my personal practice is letting go a little bit of the immediate outcome of the election, letting go of not the responsibility to vote, not the responsibility to have conversations and to be mindful about this, but to recognize that there's a longer life and a longer game here other than November 3rd.
Mm.
And that, in terms of the fear and I dare say sometimes manipulation that is brought forward, is that immediacy of thinking, if we don't do the right thing on November 3rd, if the right thing doesn't happen, then everything's going to hell in a handbasket, that life cannot resume itself ever again, that it's always going to be upside down. And sure, there's implications for who comes into office and how things will be administered. But the truth of the matter is there's November 4th, November 5th,
Right.
November 6th, 2021, November 7th, 2022. Like, life is going to go on, and spirit doesn't change as the result of who's in power.
Right.
Spirit does not change as a result of who's in office. I mean, you can think of any historical reference, whether it be biblical in the Christian, Judeo-Christian history or tradition, or looking at any of the other traditions in the world. There's always been governments that have been man-made, person-made, people-made, that try to administer and control the people so that something is, so that power is held, right, by certain people. And usually within that, there is some sort of stifling, marginalizing, withholding from some other people the power that they could have access to. As it relates to spiritual power, all of the stories of overcome, all of the stories of triumph in the Bible are in relation to that very thing, right? Where there has been some sort of government king in power, and there were the people that didn't have access to power, or their power was being somehow manipulated or stifled or changed. But the spiritual power, once that was realized and elevated and brought back into consciousness and into awareness, and really embraced that spiritual power, no one else had power over or responsibility to do anything with. Once those people or individuals realized that power in the moment, that's where their life started to change. That's where decisions started to be made. That's where influence from the seemingly lower than, or those without power, the masses, were able to move forward and actually affect some change that brought about a greater shift in not only consciousness, but in the world of form.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the big, I guess, it's a long-winded answer, but I think
Good answer. It's a really good answer.
where I've been sitting, where I'm inviting people to join me in, is thinking about a longer game and thinking about the responsibility that we have beyond the vote. That is important. It is a way of engaging our power, is a way of engaging and taking responsibility for our nation and for our world. And once we get to November 4th, there's more work to do. It just doesn't stop.
Right.
And I think that in our modern world, a lot of things are presented, or we embrace the idea of like, oh, I just need to do this one thing, then everything will be okay. Or we need to just have this one person in office, or everything's going to be okay. And that's just not true. I mean, there's always going to be a swinging pendulum. One of my undergrad professors is actually in music, but we were looking at music history, and the music that we were listening to was just horrible. It was, I think, like 1300s, 1400s, Southern France. So it was it was just very dark. It was medieval times, and the music was very discordant, and all they were like singing about was smoke and heaviness and darkness. And it just wasn't pleasant to listen to at all. I don't know if the music was intended to be consumed as something to enjoy, but the bottom line is I was, a 19-year-old kid, and I was just like, why are we listening to this? This is horrible. Why are we studying this? And words that stay with me to this very day and often hold me in a space of hope and expectancy that change is coming, and change is coming in a way that I will appreciate and that I will know and understand a little bit better, is he presented the idea of a pendulum, in that when a pendulum is swinging back and forth, that is mimicking and mirroring the nature not only of gravity and science, but it's mimicking the nature of society, that we are constantly swinging from one extreme to the other. And depending upon where we land in history, depending upon our age and the time that we live in, we may be experiencing an upward swing towards one extreme, or we may be experiencing a downward swing towards another extreme. And maybe we are living in a space of equilibrium or balance or neutrality towards the bottom, or maybe we're living in a time that's a little bit more swinging out towards an extreme. And I believe right now that I don't know if we're moving towards, if we've hit the most extreme yet, or if we're still swinging towards the extreme, or if we're starting to swing back down. I, on some level, think we are still swinging out towards an extreme. And part of that is the extreme of the information age. Everyone loves the internet. It's all about data. But the extreme swing is that we've become so detached from our spirit. We've become so detached from our humanness because it's all based on things that we can capture in a video, words that can be spoken, which are important things. They're provocative images. But to put all of our truth and trust and consciousness in those things that are constantly being manipulated and changed and transient, then it lands us in a space where we're disconnected from those spiritual truths. The love that we experience, the love that I have for you, John, the love that I have for the Cityside community is not going to be affected or changed by an election. The election will influence how we govern in this world. It will influence the conversations. It will impact who's in power and what becomes more important and in terms of priorities. But if we step back for a minute and look at the spiritual principles, the qualities, the attitudes of God, the Holy Spirit of the universe, those things are always here. They are not contingent upon anything. They are not dualistic. They are whole in and of themselves. And what we can do is remember that and bring those qualities to life. So that's what gives me hope, is that I am going to do what I want to do, what I think is best on November 3rd. And then I will be done. I will be complete. And I'm going to trust my brothers and sisters to speak their voice as they choose, and don't feel the need that I need to influence them or make them, do something different. Because the day after the election, I'm going to bring forward love. I'm going to bring forward trust. I'm going to bring forward compassion. I'm going to bring forward questioning. I'm going to bring forward constructive criticism and critical thinking. Those are the things that will allow us to be in relationship with whatever is happening, with whomever is in office. And those things just don't ever change. They don't go out the window, but we are the ones that are responsible to bring them forward.
How beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. I love you too, Reverend Darrell, and I'm so grateful for spending this time with you. I'm going to end us here because this is
Thank you.
rich wisdom. So thank you for sharing this with our community. And I know we'll be seeing you. I know we'll be talking again. So take care. Thank you.
Absolutely. Peace and blessings to you.
Reverend Darrell, just the best, just terrific. Absolutely love Reverend Darrell. So glad that he said yes, and so glad we got him recorded. So thank you so much for being part of this. Remember, if you need prayer support, email us at prayer at cityside.me. I always say that wrong, or not as well as I could. It's the email address is prayer at cityside.me. So just put in your prayer request and we will pray over it. If you need someone to reach out to you, put that in your request and we'll arrange to have someone contact you. I hope you have a blessed, blessed day. Thank you so much.